Welcome back, YouTube, to the GoatCast podcast. I am Big Nige, joined by, of course, my esteemed colleagues CW and Ron Dog. How we doing today, fellas?
I'm
Well, pretty good.
chilling. It's a vacation week for me.
Oh, well, it's not for me, but I will be in Orlando tomorrow. So, I
Oh,
guess
nice.
kind of a vacation, but cheer competition. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, a lot of teams have joined. We're about to join you guys on vacation, so we're gonna recap a little bit of these first round of the playoffs. Got some heated battles still going on, but the cleanup crew was in session because Cleveland went ahead and took out the Heat in 4 games. Not much for me to say about this series. They just, like I said, dominated on the glass, limited turnovers, destroyed Tyler Hero, and he, of course, had that famous quote of saying he's not going to get swept, and then he proceeds to get swept. So nothing more to really add for me. Y'all got any thoughts?
Um, they really showed why they were the 10th seed. It really showed against the
hmm
Cavs. That's about it. Got much more to say.
yeah. And once we go to the other one too, this was the first year in a long time I felt like there was a really 1 and 8 seed because these 1 seeds showed that they truly are best of the best, and 55-point win. I mean, they made a statement in game 4, so it's going to be scary going forward.
I mean, that first quarter, it was like 42 to like 17. I was like, at that point, just go ahead and just take the
Yeah, that's
rest
what
of
I
the
said at
game off.
halftime. I was like, they might as well just end this game. Tell everybody we'll give you we'll give you a discount.
Yeah.
We'll give you your money back. This ain't no
Once
need to.
Pat, once Pat then put that picture of him there with the belt, I was like,
Yo,
oh no. I was like, no.
So, yeah, not much different over here. We got the Thunder belt to ass on the Grizzlies. It was again
Warm up
not a
series.
close series. They
Warm
made
up.
some of the games a little comfortable or a little close, but again, Thunder just whooped them. Nothing much to say really there, because again, the Grizzlies are just really notorious for turning the ball over. We got another injury from John Morant. Just I don't know if his body can really like stand out to like his play style. He might need to turn into Derek Fisher or something because he just can't stay healthy with his play style. It's unfortunate, but Thunder took care of business. Any thoughts? I'll start with CW. Any quick thoughts for them?
I mean, you said it best. It was what it was. This was the equivalent of 100 men versus a gorilla. So
Oh
that's what
my
this
god!
series was.
I haven't seen
So
that go around a lot this week. I've been
so
hearing
this
it all
was
around.
the equivalent of that. So hopefully Ja can get better. Hopefully he can you know um be the star that we think he is. But for right now, the Thunder are just too much. I mean, they should be the front runners. We got to stop sleeping on those Thunder.
Anything, Ron Dog, to add?
Thunder, it was a warm up series with the Mavs the whole time. We have to see how the second round is because that's the round that they got kicked out last year and was round two.
Fair enough. We will see. We got next
Shout
Celtics
out
took
to
care.
Derpy Entertainment. Thanks for stopping by.
Oh, for sure. We got the Celtics taking care of the Magic. Uh, the closeout game. The first half was pretty close. I was thinking it was going to go down to the wire,
Mhm.
and then the Celtics just tore into them. I mean, you would think the way the game ended, where it was like 120 to like 89 or something like that,
Mhm.
that like there was a blowout all throughout the entire game, but really it was the third quarter that they just broke away, and then it got ugly after that. Paulo didn't have a really good game. Front started pretty strong, but again, you're not getting much contributions from anyone else. And then
Mm.
Tatum finally, last few games started looking like Tatum. Rest of the team followed suit, and it was just absolute destruction. So Celtics look, I don't know. Do you guys feel as confident about the Celtics after they got roughed up by the Magic?
Um,
Um,
I,
Go ahead.
I think the Celtics, they don't really like that physical play. It'll rattle them at some points, but they'll still be able to overpower. I was thinking that the Celtics were in a 4-0 sweep them. because
Mhm.
you know, especially with the game that Tatum was out, I thought they were going to steal that game, but they steal a game where Tatum and Brown and them are all in. So that's the only concerning part I had, really.
Wasn't Drew out that game? The game they lost?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was out.
So that shows how important Drew is. But yeah, I thought this was, if any team could have lost that I think is a contender, the Celtics. The Magic are a good team. They're a good physical team. But yeah, the biggest thing concerning the Cavs, I'm not the Cavs, but the Celtics is their health. Like they seem to be good for one game, and then one guy will get a little nicked up, and then another guy will get a little bit. A physical team like Orlando kind of showed that. But I don't worry too much. But they're a team that lives and dies by the three. Uh, they've lived by it so far, and Tatum had a few rough spots, but he showed up. It's all about if they can be consistent and efficient. So they showed they could do it last year. I believe they can do it again this year. But there are a few concerns. I'm not, if I had to bet my life on them winning the championship, I would feel a little bit. I'd be more hesitant now than I was at the start of the playoffs.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think Orlando showed that like that one of Boston's like big, advantages is their big wings, like Tatum and Brown being able to punish, smaller size guards and wings that are on them. Like the Pacers have, they don't have the greatest size to contend with them. Neither do the Cavs outside of Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. So I think those are the kind of matchups that the Celtics want. So, Orlando, they're bigger than pretty much everybody out east. So that was like one of the big problems that they ran into, that you couldn't just, muscle your way through them. They were being physical with them. Not to say that, the Pacers or Cleveland couldn't be physical, but they're not going to have the size and the length to also bother those shots after bumping them off their spots. So I definitely agree with Derby. They could have been a better fight if they made any of their threes, and I mean quite literally any of their threes. But that's just, we knew it going into the series they couldn't shoot it, and if Paulo and France are going to take 50% of your shots, probably not a recipe for success.
You
Speaking
Yeah.
of success, let's talk about the Pacers and Bucks, man. This game
Mm.
was it was wild, man. Before I start, just Gary Trent Jr., man. Just shout out to him.
That had to hurt. That had to hurt, man.
He was
I mean,
trying his hardest.
Man, he was playing good until that turnover, man. That was
mm,
just you hate to see that happen to a young guy.
he was the hero and the villain all in the same game. I saw that in the comment section after one of the recap videos I saw, because I did watch this game live, but I do sometimes like to go in comment sections and kind of see like what fans are talking about, what are they thinking, because you get some pretty
Mhm.
insightful things when you kind of look in there and see like, oh, this happened at 2 minutes left into the third quarter. But regardless, this is a back and forth game, probably the most entertaining game in the last, because I mean, yeah, the Nuggets absolutely obliterated the Clippers, so um, but this was a good game.
Yeah.
Giannis had a patented 30-20 game with like 13 assists, a crazy triple double, playing,
Hmm.
point Giannis. That's the kind of Giannis that I thought was going to be kind of in the forefront of this series. And Derby is going wild on the
Yeah. False goat creep. Oh
called
man,
him the
we
false
going. I'm gonna
goat.
have to speak on that.
but but yeah, and it was a back and forth game. AJ Green shooting the lights out of the building. Gary Trent Jr., of course, even though he started slow from three, he definitely picked it up in the second half and went scorched earth, could not miss.
Yeah.
And they just continued to build on that momentum. And then, as you know, or if you don't know, they get into overtime, Gary Trent's making everything he touches, and they're up 7 with about 48 seconds left in overtime. And some way, somehow, the Bucks find a way to lose. Terrible decision making down the stretch. People are
Mm.
throwing passes, jumping in the air, throwing passes when they're getting pressed. That's not a good thing to do. Gary
Mm-mm.
Trent Jr. had that two critical turnovers, and it's just like, man, I know he's kicking himself. Shout out to
Mhm.
Tyrese Halliburton. He beat the allegations of being the most overrated player in the league almost seemingly in the last 48 seconds of that game, because he was the Pacers' main offense. Siakam didn't have his offense that game. Nimhard was kind of struggling. They had him more like in a more of a spot up role because they were trying to hunt mismatches and things of that nature. But Siakam just didn't have it that game. So it was good to see Tyrese Halliburton, put together a masterful performance and close them out. So what do you guys see, W? I know you're gonna want to rip into this comment by Derby.
Man, false goat, false goat. The Bucks. This is just been there. They've been cursed ever since that 2021 championship. It's like they just cannot get it together. They get bad matchups in the first couple rounds. You know, they have injuries happen. It's just like, and I've grown less and less of a Giannis fan because he's shown some things I don't like. I've called him a diva. I still think he has those diva tendencies that I just can't get with. He's been around the self-proclaimed king a little bit too much, I feel. But you know, but false goat, I won't say that. He plays hard, and he played hard this whole series. He wanted to win this series, and I don't think there's nothing false about that. But unfortunately, they ran into the team that is their kryptonite, which is the Indiana Pacers. They were just quicker. They made shots in a timely fashion, and they executed down the stretch where the Bucks did not. You can blame that on Dame not being there. You can blame it on whatever you want, on Doc Rivers coaching. You can blame it on whatever you want, but they just didn't. And if you have a guy like Giannis, you can't make excuses for him for not executing down the stretch. They just needed some defense to close this game out. It was like 35 seconds left, and they were up by 7. Couldn't get it done in 35. Couldn't stop the Indiana Pacers from scoring in 35 seconds to win the game. So that's inexcusable. I'm sure we're going to talk about Giannis a little later, but he did all he could do, and even when you do all you can do, sometimes that's not enough. But for me, that's why I tell my son, even if you did enough to, not enough, but you got to say it was a team. The team lost, and you were part of that team. So Giannis has to take this one on the nose, on the head, and you know what? He'll have to make some choices coming up here soon. But I don't think he's a false goat. I think he played as well as he could. They just couldn't get it done against a better team. That's just the gist of it.
What do you got, Ron Dog?
So the Bucks, everybody was expecting Giannis to do what he do. No one expected Gary Trent to come out there and be an absolute shooter, because that's what they thought Dame was going to do before he got his injury, of course. So for Gary Trent Jr. to step up and try to help him win that game, it was a good look for Gary Trent. But yeah, like you guys said, the Pacers, they had more than what the Bucks were willing to try to go against. And then Giannis, he hasn't won a playoff series since his championship run. This is his 8th straight loss in the playoffs series wise. So we just got to see what happens for him in the future.
I think he's 1-9 in his last playoff games, even though he's averaging I know for this series he averaged 33, 15, 6 assists, a steal, a block, 61% from the field, 65 true shooting, and he's the only player in NBA history to average 30, 15, and 6 on 65 true shooting in a playoff series.
Yeah,
and they still lost. So
if you put him with those stats on any other team, they freaking win that series.
I can't disagree. Can't. But some more controversy came through at the end of this game. And I thought it was weird because when the game was over, everybody was celebrating. Halliburton jumped on the, little scoreboard thing and was puffing his chest. And it was a big moment. But you were kind of seeing players stick around a little bit longer. I'm thinking, they're giving each other handshakes, dapping each other up, congratulating each other. But then you see Giannis and somebody at the time, I didn't know this was Halliburton's dad, but a fan had walked up on the court, had a towel with a player's face on it. I didn't see it until I re-looked at it, but it was Tyrese Halliburton's dad. He walks up on Giannis. He's like, cursing expletives and saying, "This is what we do. This is what my son does." And I'm sure he said some other extracurricular activities, but this prompted a big discussion on TNT.
Mhm.
Even Giannis had some comments post game. Halliburton had some comments post game. Basically, the gist of it was Giannis was like, be professional, through and through, win or loss. He doesn't believe in people, puffing their chest, talking crazy at the end of a game when all we're really doing is competing. We don't need to be personal attacks, all this, that, and the bag of chips. Halliburton obviously agreed. He thought his dad's comments were, not acceptable, and he talked about it. Then, of course, Halliburton's dad later today posted an apology saying he'll be better about that, and that's not who he is. X, Y, and Z. So I say all that to paint the picture. So Shaq, then they have their reaction to it. Shaq says that Halliburton's dad was not in the wrong, and that this comes with the territory. Being in a heated playoff series, being one of the best players in basketball, you have to be able to take that criticism. Charles Barkley disagrees, says that fans should be on the floor, and that there should be some kind of penalty going toward his way from the NBA. But now we have a big divide between, you know, should players be able to, or should fans be able to go on the floor after a heated game, getting in players' faces and all things like that, or should they, not be able to go on the floor? Like, does this come with the territory or not? That's kind of where this question posed to. And I'm gonna kick it to Ron Dog first. Do you agree more with Shaq on this, or do you agree with Chuck?
I'm with Chuck and Kenny on this because what if a fan goes down there, says too much, and then a player hits them? God forbid, hits them and hurts them. That player's going to get sued, probably suspended, and this and that. So the players need to stick in their realm at the bleachers and seats. Just because you get a ticket doesn't mean that you are entitled to get on the floor with the players. You just can't do it.
CW.
Yeah, I agree. I see Therapy saying that's soft and Shaq is right, but we had the Mouse in the Palace before, and that was a big bad stain on the NBA, and they do not want that to happen again. They just can't. There's so many lawsuits and things that can creep up from that, and it's always going to be, sadly, because they're bigger, stronger, faster, whatever you want to say. It's always going to be on the players to have the self-control not to, do something that they shouldn't do. And I just think that's not a good precedence to start because, yeah, he's his dad, so he's kind of, he's in the realm of the team or something like that. But your third cousin come out there. What if Jokic's brothers come out there? You don't want that because I don't think that's going to go well for many of the NBA players. So, no, they shouldn't celebrate in the stands. Celebrate, go backstage, go back in the back of the arena and celebrate, but don't celebrate on the court, especially after a playoff series winning game where one team was so close to winning. There's going to be adrenaline pumping. There's going to be a lot of, just not ill will, but, you're just finished competing. You don't want nobody in your face, like that. You don't do that at, high school games. You don't do that. Just let those guys play and let them get off the court. Then you go celebrate. We got to separate that. There's no place for that, and it's just going to lead to something that's going to be bad for the NBA, I think.
I'm gonna have to disagree with both of you guys. I think to a certain extent. Now I do agree more with Shaq. Like, this is one of the things that makes the playoffs. Like, everything is heightened. Fans are going crazy in the stands, wearing all the different colors of their teams, and it's just, you have to really think about it. I don't know what was said, and I don't know how personal it got, but just from the optics, just looking at it, you got a fan who, again, was his dad. I'm not condoning anything he said, but that was the energy of the entire building. Like, that kind of comeback was literally unprecedented. We're talking about coming back 48 seconds or 40 seconds left in the game, down 7. Your son is being called overrated. He goes and proves the basketball world he is not. You get on the court. Now, yes, should he not have like gotten all up in Giannis's face? Sure. But I mean, just going up there, putting your son's towel on the floor, like I don't see any problem with it. And then when they do get in each other's face, because it did happen, like so we can rewind history, we're still talking about it to this day. Would we be talking about anything regarding this series, today if it wasn't for that? Because everybody, all of us picked the Pacers to beat the Bucks in this series.
Mm-hmm.
There was no like surprise, no wow factor. Now the way they did it last night was definitely a surprise. But even if the Bucks won, nobody was picking the Bucks to win this series. So when you talk about again, and even Derby's bringing up, the viewing numbers, the optics, everybody calling this era soft and all this that. Here you go, right here. And it looked, even though again, don't know what was said, but it looked good to see, that kind of engagement. Now you don't want people up in each other's face because anything can happen. But again, it's just like you want that engagement from the crowd. Like you want I know that if I come in to Indiana as the best player, like they're coming for me just because that's the energy of this building. Right. So when you take all those things in consideration, I do agree more with Shaq because I think you want to send a message being on the road in the playoffs now. And again, don't get too carried away. But yeah, that something like that, I don't think is completely out of bounds as long as no hands are thrown.
Okay. Now, would you do that to Isaiah Stewart? Would you come up to him and wave that flag in front of Isaiah Stewart?
Yeah. I'm saying if you don't if you are taking out the physical altercation point of it, if you are just talking about strictly, because fans say a lot of wild stuff that's not recorded. They say everything under the sun. So if I'm looking at you and I'm saying whatever to you, but as long as it doesn't get physical, it's really not a problem. I mean, I'm not saying nothing like super disrespectful, but I'm saying, yeah, we bust y'all, you know what? Go home.
But that people will take that a certain way, and then some people would react, and someone would be laying on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, did he freeze up?
I think he did.
Oh, I think Big Nine froze up for a second, but well, hopefully when he gets back, I can ask him a question because I know Big Nine very well, so I need to ask him something when he
because like. The father shouldn't even have went to Giannis. He should have like said it to them all, not just Giannis himself. Like why?
Yeah, and I get you want to. We like that. We like seeing the passion in sports. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But when you get in someone's face who just lost a big time game, they're done for the year. They're done for the season.
Their emotions are high already.
Yeah, exactly. They played hard. They went to overtime. They were just up 7 points. They're trying to process all of this, and now you got somebody you don't even know in your face, trying to wave in, Tyrese Halliburton's face in your face. I mean, you're going to eventually pick the wrong guy, and it's going to end up with something that the NBA cannot or does not want to deal with. So yeah, Big Nines, I got to ask you something. We've all played basketball before. We've all been in big time games. So can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so imagine you're in a playoff series or a playoff game, high school, whatever. You poured it all out. You went and scored 30. Y'all were up by 5 with 10 seconds left, and y'all end up losing. You want somebody in your face after that? After you just poured everything you had out on the court, and somebody's mom or dad comes up in your face and was like, yelling something, derogatory or whatever. Would you be okay with that? Okay. I know you. So
yeah.
Okay, hold on. Okay,
so I know you.
like I said, not face to face, but there's nothing wrong with a fan being there. They're not in his way. They're not impeding his path to leave. They're just saying X, Y, and Z. Nothing different than what they'd be saying, 10 feet away in the stands. My point is, it doesn't have to be face to face, but they should be allowed to say what they want to say, as long as it doesn't get physical, doesn't go super out of bounds. Just say, hey, we bust. You know what? Cool. And I think that's fair. I think that's in bounds as a fan. You just can't get personal, and you definitely can't get physical, because that's where I think that's where it goes out of bounds for me.
The only
Because
problem was this time it wasn't just that. He got in his face, it
yeah,
got a little physical, and then he said more than what he was supposed to say.
Yeah, and Darper, I understand that. I'm not trying to protect the players. I'm trying to protect the fans because the players are doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to be on the court. They're playing the game. I don't see why any fan should be able to, you see it in college and stuff like that. They rush the floor off a big win, but it's just I don't think the NBA needs stuff like that. I just
and you're
think
getting paid millions, millions upon millions to just take a little bit of criticism from a fan who you're probably never going to see again. Like you like, come on, like it's the postseason. Like you want
I
fans
get
to,
that. Now, if it's the finals, if this was a championship game, and your team just won their first, like Cleveland, they won their first championship in 2016. Now that's a moment where you need to rush the floor and just that's for the city. But like you said, I mean, I get it. If they're away from the players, they're on their side, you can yell stuff to them. Yeah, obviously they're going to yell stuff from the seats or from wherever they're all on the court. But I just don't think that I should think they should wait till the other team has cleared the floor, then come out. Celebrate with your team. You don't need to celebrate in front of the losing team. It just, to me, that just sets a bad precedence in the NBA, and it's just field
Just
day for
shows
something bad.
it just shows that you have class if you just wait for them to leave
Yeah,
and then you celebrate with your team.
yeah.
There's a
Celebrate with
lot of
your
people
team.
these days that don't have class.
I won't
I'm
disagree
not
with
saying
y'all
his dad didn't
points.
have class, but yeah, you want to win with class, you lose with class. So Giannis had accepted it. He was going to leave. He wasn't going to go over there and go fight the Indiana Pacers. But when you drum up stuff like that, then you don't know what Giannis is going to do. I don't think Giannis, that's in his character. But you got your Draymonds, your Isaiah Stewarts, these guys.
Mhm.
You do that, and you don't know what's going to happen. And then you have got to suspend Draymond for 2 seasons because he just beat somebody down in the on court.
Jeez.
You just gotta, you gotta
Mhm.
tread lightly. That's all I gotta say. I mean,
Yeah.
I love them celebrating, and that was a huge, crazy comeback. But you just gotta be careful with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and segue to our next segment. Made a lot of good key points. We're gonna stick with
Mhm.
the Bucks for one more quick segment,
Mhm.
which will segue into our next one. But what is next for the Bucks? Like as CW said, he feels like they're cursed, and I'm right there with him. But if you're Milwaukee, because I'm gonna ask it from two sides of this coin, if you are the Bucks, what's your priority going into the off season? What kind of things are you looking to do? And then if you're Giannis, should you want out? I'll start since I've looked into this a little bit. Not gonna go super in detail, but if I'm looking at it from the Bucks side of things, Damian Lillard's going to be 35 this summer, I think in July. 2 years, $113 million. We don't know when he'll be back next season because of the torn Achilles. Hope he gets well soon. You got Kuzma for 2 years, who he showed you who he can be in the postseason setting. Not the
Mhm.
greatest. Not going to say he was absolutely pitiful, but the shot was pretty bad. You had your young players, Andre Jackson. There's another guy's last name I can't pronounce. You got Sims. You got some young pieces. Did they get any burn in this postseason? No. That don't look good for them. That's not showcasing anything to look forward to. Um, you got your now also you want to get rid of Brook Lopez because I think that was his last season in Milwaukee. You remove him, you got 23 million below the luxury tax. You're $41 million below the second apron. And I know me and you have talked about this extensively, CW, with that second apron and how that hampers teams. So Milwaukee financially isn't in the worst position, but they're not primed to make any big moves. They have their 14.1 million in their mid-level exception, non-taxed. Um, you have really no draft picks as Milwaukee. I think your next draft pick that you can trade is like 2031 and 2032. So you're
Yep.
pretty much cooked there.
Wow.
And then so now you have to look at your players. Gary Trent Jr. played out of his mind the last few games of this season. What money can you throw at him? Because he's coming off of a vet minimum, and I promise you, he's going to want more. You got AJ Green, young player, one of the bright young players that I mentioned that wasn't with Andre Jackson and the rest of them on the bench. He was playing. You know, would you look at extending him? He's eligible for I think 4 years, 89 million. And if you don't extend him, he tests his waters in the free agency in a couple seasons. There's a lot of teams that could use a guy like AJ Green. So got to be careful with that one. Got Bobby Portis on the player option. Torian Prince is in a similar situation to Gary Trent Jr. How much money are you going to give him? Him coming off of a minimum as well. Kevin Porter Jr., another one of those. I guess he's kind of like a low risk, high reward player. He's kind of seen his damaged goods around the league. So not a lot of teams are going to, raise the asking price for him, considering his past, right or wrong. So you got those things to look at. And out of all those things, I mean, yeah, you could probably get Portis back. You could probably get one of Torian Prince or Gary Trent. Probably want to get Gary Trent Jr. back, and he fit very well with this team. But what is it really for if you can't convince Giannis to stay? And I don't believe they can convince Giannis to stay, which would then, for me, go into like, should he want out? The quick and short answer, yes, he should want out because I don't see a scenario for them that they can run it back where it'd be advantageous for him to stay, because they're not going to be better than any of the top contending teams out east. Oh, snap.
What's going on, Casual?
Oh, snap.
Man,
Our
yeah,
resident Bucks
I just
fan.
had to break my heart. Yeah, to break my heart right now, man. I come on to YouTube and this is what I find. This is what y'all do to me, man.
Well, we're going to let the Bucks fan get his thoughts in on should Giannis want out.
I wouldn't be mad if he would. I wouldn't. I honestly don't feel as if anybody should be frustrated at Giannis at this point in time. He's given just about everything he possibly can, develop to being, arguably the best player of his generation, and so I feel like, especially with the body of work that he provided over the last couple of seasons, being, I don't know if you guys know, but he's the only player in NBA history to average 30 while shooting 60% from the field. And he's done that twice. Stuff that not even Wilt or Shaq has been able to do, he's done. And so I feel like seeing what he's dealing with the Dame situation, coaches being in an eternal loop. You know what I'm saying? Budenholzer and Griffin and Doc, and all three of them are getting Doc will be fired this offseason, I'm hoping, and that would be three head coaches that we'll have on a payroll, even though they're not working. We're literally dysfunctional right now, and any dysfunctional franchise really can't complain when the star says, "Hey, man, I want a better situation."
Mm-hmm.
That being said, though, I don't think that there's a better situation out there for him to go to, because anywhere he goes, it literally won't be the same situation that he entices them to go there in the first place. I think every team except for like Oklahoma City, I believe would essentially gut their entire team the moment that they would accept the trade for Giannis.
Thoughts?
Interesting.
CW, thoughts?
So we're doing this from the perspective of Giannis, right? So
Correct.
if I'm Giannis, should I want out? I think so.
Okay.
I think so. I think he's done all he can for that franchise. He brought them a championship. He's played his butt off the entire time he's been there. We saw him go from that little skinny, Nigerian Greek kid to the beast we see today. So I think he's done everything he can do in a Bucks jersey. But I think he's one of those guys I think will do this with class. He's not going to be like, yeah, trade me right now or I'm walking in 2026. I think he'll, tell them, I'd like to go to a contender. I think we've done all we can as, together. And I think it's in Milwaukee's best interest to kind of heed that and kind of look into that, because like you said, they have no draft picks. So if Giannis walks in 2026, they can't even rebuild. They have nothing to rebuild, and that's a small market team who wants to go to the Bucks with no Giannis there. So I think now is the time for them to try to get some kind of draft capital. Unfortunately, it's not going to be if they ship them off to a contender. It's not going to be great picks, but it's something. And they just got to start to rebuild, unfortunately, because this team is just not, like Casual said, they're dysfunctional, and you can't build off of that. You can't just try to put a Band-Aid on it, bring in this guy, bring in that guy, bring in a new coach. We've seen it, hasn't worked. It's just not getting done, and they've got to do something to rectify that. And I think, yes, he's going to demand a high amount of players in this, but you got to do it because this is the only way that they can start their rebuild if they're going to try to truly rebuild their team.
Well, I mean, he can't walk. He can't walk until 28.
20. Okay, so he's got a player option in 2028.
After this season, he still got 3 more years.
Okay, and his third year
committed to us.
Is a player option. Okay, so
you don't think he'll ask out because he can force his way out?
Oh,
he can make things difficult.
I think there's a probability where Giannis could ask out because they're supposed to be meeting next week. So there's a probability that he could ask out, and then we have to look for options on how to move on to him. Because I don't think the Milwaukee hasn't shown to be a franchise that will be stubborn and say, nah, you staying here. Especially for the ones that have been the most loyal. So we had heated Chris Middleton's his cry to be traded and being put in a better situation. So like they don't have a problem with that. But at the same time, it has to also benefit the franchise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What you got, Ron Dog?
Well, if I was Giannis, yeah, I probably want to get out because even before they won the championship, they spent years trying to build around him, not having many successfuls until that year they got their championship run. And then just here lately, they've tried to get people who would be good shooters around Giannis because they're going to double Giannis and then he's going to pass out. But it just seems whenever it comes time, those players they don't show up for him at certain moments. Some do, but not all the time. And he's probably frustrated about it. So yeah, Giannis is probably ready to go. But like you guys are saying, he'll make sure that it's on good terms because he's been with them for so long. He'll want to make sure that he leaves that organization on good terms.
Now, since I do have Casual really quick, I just want to point out that I did call that Damian Lillard was going to go down with injury.
Oh,
the time
you
that it
cursed
did,
us. Oh man,
you want to kick him while he's
man.
down. You want to kick him while he's down.
I just wanted because when we had the three of us when we talked about the preseason and talked about all these bold takes, and I remember one of them being that Dame will be going down. I didn't say exactly as soon because he did play a good stretch of games prior to going down, but he went down and he stayed down toward the postseason. But I just want to throw that out there because y'all are definitely cursed.
Nah, yeah.
Oh man,
I don't know about cursed, but man, there's been a lot of shitty situations that we done put ourselves in. We should have pulled the trigger on a few things earlier than yeah. Dame should have been gone this season. Yeah, he should have been gone.
He's not wrong. I mean, Dame hasn't really done much since he's been there.
And that builds a great segue into our newest segment. When we cook or cooking. Pretty much this is just something little quick thing because a lot of these recaps for these postseason games, you don't want to be too long-winded.
Yeah.
And with a lot of teams either about to be sent to Cancun or potentially fighting for their playoff lives, we're going to start with the Lakers. And I'll start because, this team I'm rooting for.
I bet you will.
Are my Lakers cooked or are we cooking with something? Now, just hear me out.
Yeah, here we go. Here it
No,
goes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The Lakers are cooked, man. This season's pretty much over for them. I don't think they'll lose Game 5. I think they'll make a valiant effort. I think Luka's going to play very well. I think LeBron's going to play very well. Uh, that I don't know if that will be enough, but I'm going to assume the role players are going to play a little bit better at home. I think Minnesota is going to be because McDaniels has been kind of inconsistent. When he shows up, it's basically no contest.
Lights out.
Yes, but I'm assuming McDaniels is going to come down to earth a little bit. Nas Reed's coming down to earth a little bit. Julius Randle is probably going to have a nice game. Anthony Edwards is going to have a nice closeout game. But I think the Lakers, they just hold stack.
Look at that smirk by C-Dub.
They're going to be cooking. They'll be cooking in Game 5.
Waiting to.
But I think as for their season, they're cooked. They're probably leaving in Game 6, but they're going to put a valiant effort in Game 5. All right. Now, I'll leave the floor to y'all. I'll kick it to Ron Dog first.
All right, good.
Cooked, or we cooking?
Good, because the Lakers are cooked. First and foremost, I'm going to start with the rim protection first. Just something real quick. Non-existence would be the right word for it. And then second, about 2-3 shows ago, you talking real greasy about that man Randall, who's cooking Bron as of late. Talking real greasy about him.
I admit he's doing good. He's playing very well. I can't lie.
I guess he must have saw this podcast somewhere. He had to have. He had to saw this kid talking crap.
He got his motivation. He got his motivation.
And then AR has not been the player he was all year. He's been absolutely horrible. He's been shooting really bad. And then Luka, LeBron, they've had their hit and miss moments. So yeah, after y'all get kicked out tonight, you guys need to get a actual center this offseason.
That is true. That is true. We do need rim protection.
That's
get Mark Williams, I guess. Go beg Charlotte to get that trade back.
Yeah, that's about as far.
I'll give you Brooke.
I'll give you Brooke.
Nah, we're gonna need somebody a little bit more mobile than Brooke.
I'll give you Brooke.
I'll give you Brooke.
Nah, we need somebody with a little bit more
Couple
mobility.
draft
A
picks.
little more pep in their step.
A little more pep in their step. That's logical.
Austin Reeves.
CW, what you got?
I'm not gonna say they're cooked.
They're semi-cooked,
but they are. I mean, they are cooked, but I think they have some fight left in them. And who'd have thought Julius Randle would be the Luka and LeBron killer? You can't paint a more perfect picture when Big Nige is the biggest Julius Randle hater, and he's cooking his favorite player and Luka. So, I think they're cooked. I mean, it's really hard to win 3 games straight against a solid team. Everybody kind of slept on Minnesota. Coming in, they thought, they drank the Shannon Sharp Lakers in 5 Kool-Aid, and now they're seeing that was not what they should have done. Minnesota was in the conference finals last year, so they're a team that knows how to win. Yes, they lost Cat, but Julius Randle, while not the perfect player to replace him, is a really good player. And he's an all-star level player, fringe all-star level player, and he's showing it. So, like Ron Dog said, they desperately need rim protection, and they don't have it. And if they're gonna play those 5 guys 24 minutes the whole second half, then that's just a recipe for disaster. And LeBron at 40, he's still a great player, but there's no way at 40 you can play just nonstop 2 whole quarters with no rest and expect to be fresh when it's time to really deliver in the fourth quarter. That's just insanity. Starts at JJ Redick. Everybody just got to show up. I think they win tonight, but I think Game 6 they're done.
Casual.
Man, come on over here to Milwaukee. We packing our bags right now. We finna head to Cancun, man. Y'all cook too, man. Come on, come on, man. I don't know how many times I've said this since the trade happened. I know I said it in my video, but rim protection is one fundamental that is does not a get around. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? I think the Nuggets met that harsh reality last year when they went against Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And in the seventh game, them not having a true rim protector to stop Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and Nas Reed's Cat's pressure around the rim. It just
Mm-hmm.
they couldn't handle it. When you have a team that can be able to get the most efficient shot in basketball at a drop of a hat, and you don't have anybody in the paint that could be able to be some level of a response to that, there's nothing you can do. I don't care how good your shooting is. If you don't have somebody there
Mm-hmm.
that can be an answer to that antidote, you're
Mm-hmm.
cooked. And I think when it comes to the Lakers, their biggest hope really was Jackson Hayes. Unfortunately, it really was
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Hayes, and he got played off the court in the first 5 minutes, and he
Yeah.
hasn't seen the light of day since.
Got benched.
So whether y'all make it out of game 5 or not is always going to be a game 6. There's always going to be another game 7, because every single game you're going to be in this playoffs, you're going to be cutting it close, because the one
Mm-hmm.
for sure thing each team, especially in the Western Conference, can say that they can get off of the Lakers, we can get in that room, and they can't do a damn thing about
Mm-hmm.
it. So I think you guys are cooked, and to just end the series on a lighter note though. Y'all got so much potential on that offensive end. It's not even fucking funny. Literally, the
Mm-hmm.
fact that the only thing that everybody can have a problem with is just the rim protection. That's the only hole that you have to fill, and that speaks wonder for like the future. But as for right now, yeah, now y'all cooked.
Their offense is so good now because they got that great white hope.
Yeah, hey, look,
Mm-hmm.
they got two white boys out there that's hooping, man.
Nah, but
Got two white
only
boys
one's
out there
hooping
hooping.
right now.
Maybe Luca.
Only one's hooping.
Yeah.
Luca Magic, baby.
Well, we'll send y'all our trade package of Brooke Lopez for Foster Reeves in
Oof.
the mail, man. I
Ooh,
got you, man.
keep
I
it
think they
going.
probably
I got you.
take
Don't you
Bobby
worry. No, no,
Portis
don't you
before
don't
Brooke
you say
Lopez.
nothing. I know what you're saying right now, but I know you don't mean it, man. You know you want that Brooke Lopez, man.
Yeah, you know you want Brooke
Yeah,
Lopez over
Maybe
there.
10 years
you
ago.
lost them. You lost them to us in 2018. You know you want them
Instead of
back.
Splash
You
Mountain,
can have them back.
he is just Waterfall Mountain now.
Yeah. What they
Let's
call
switch.
they call it? They call him Brook Mountain. Yeah, you can get the Splash Twin again, man. You can get new and
Let's switch.
improved.
Let's switch topics to a different team because another team that a lot of people might agree is probably cooked.
Oh yeah,
Houston Rockets.
yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and kick this one over to CW. Are
Mm.
they cooking or are they cooked, man?
They're cooked. You got to
Mm-hmm.
be able to score. I mean, they are literally, when we talked about Orlando, they're the Western Conference version of Orlando. They got some good players. They can
Wild.
get to the rim, but they're just not. They can't shoot. Jalen Green's been he had to sit the other night because he just wasn't. He can't hit nothing. So when Sengun's the only weapon you have, that's Amin Thompson is a phenomenal player. He will probably be a DPOY candidate soon, and he's coming along, but he's just not there yet. Dylan Brooks is Dylan Brooks. Fred VanVleet, he'll give you something one night, next night he'll airball three when it's important. So I just think they're cooked. Warriors look. I didn't expect Jimmy to come back, but he came back and he looked okay. So that's just too much. Too many veterans and a Steve Kerr that's actually playing and strategizing well, I think. So when you have that, recipe for disaster for your team. So Houston's cooked.
Mm-hmm.
Ron Dog.
Well, yeah, they are cooked. I've done talked to Nigel about this. Me and him backed the wrong horse in this series. We backed the wrong horse.
No,
Yes,
y'all
we
did
did.
He
what?
picked it. He
We
picked the
did.
Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
I pick Golden
god.
State. I pick Golden
I
State.
wish. Yeah. Okay. So C Dub had common sense. I wish I would
yeah,
have been here to get you off that hill.
yeah.
No
I
man.
mean, the group they had
Oh,
looked good, but those boys look good on paper. In
Hmm.
in
do
in
they?
real life,
Do
I wish
they
they had one
though?
person who could take over, but they all are just on cruise control out there. Sangoon, he can only do so much as the big man. He needs a
Hmm.
guard to step up with him, but it ain't happening this series. Next year, maybe.
What you got, casual?
Oh no, they cooked. They were cooked in game one. Uh,
Thank you.
yeah, they are so cooked. They look like the first young team I've ever seen. The first young team I've ever seen in the playoffs hit the panic button after this loss. They are, they are, they got some huge decisions they got to make. Jalen Green got to get out of there. You
Yeah.
got to get him out of there. He is how you got more commercial than points.
God Almighty.
That's
Lord,
crazy.
Lord.
Bro, he is. I'm
Oh
not
man.
even gonna lie. He is a terror to watch. It is hard to watch him. And then
Hmm.
on top of that, I can't stop but getting this feeling. Everybody, almost everybody except for Fred Van Vliet, is out of their position on that team,
That's
and that
exactly
includes Sengun.
that's exactly what I told Nigel.
Yeah, you think
Yeah,
you
that
more of a four?
everybody. Amin
Yeah.
Thompson out here playing a three when he really play more like a four. But he can't be a
Hmm.
four because he's not the floor spacer they need him to be. So they put Dylan Brooks at the four, but Dylan Brooks ain't
Yep.
a four. So it's and then Sangoon, quiet as kept, he ain't a real center. He more like a
Mm-mm.
Pau
I
Gasol. He
agree.
could play center, but he's really a four. They need to get him a center because you saw when they put Steven Adams in the center spot along with Sangoon, it looked so seamless. So like I feel like
Hmm.
when it comes to Houston, they're inexperienced. They got a bunch of players that's willing to play hard, but they're not in the right position. And then they got players that just ain't supposed to be there anymore. Like they're not supposed. At this point right now, I fail to see what Jabari Smith Jr. is even doing on this team at this time. If you're not going to play him in the
Mm.
series with his
Mm.
length, his athleticism, his ability to space the floor, what is he doing on this roster any longer? You might as well just package him up with Jalen Green, go and get you a star.
Mm. Could be in the works.
You know,
Should be in the
so
works.
and then that's before you get to that baby face assassin. Steph Curry that is one of the
Hmm.
greatest players we've ever seen in our lifetime. I hope we
Hmm.
cherish this series and really this playoffs because we get to see a farewell for a lot of our all time greats.
Hmm.
And then Jimmy Butler obviously getting hurt, being unlikely to come back, and then you come back and you getting 12 free throws.
Hmm.
Like Grifton to that level, yeah, nah, man, they're cooked. They're cooked. They're cooked.
They're cooked.
Yeah, I ain't gonna spend too much time on this. They're definitely cooked. Um, just think the Warriors had, like you said, just too much experience, just too much like veteran savvy. Houston, I mean, between Jalen Green and Fred Van Vliet, it just gets really scary over there. They're just
Yeah.
too wildly inconsistent. You just undersized with Fred Van Vliet. Like, yes, he had a really solid game four, but it didn't matter.
Mhm.
So to not echo the same points y'all made, they're still a couple pieces away.
Mhm.
I kind of wish they'd play Cam Whitmore a little bit more in this series. I think he was kind of that punch that I thought they would have utilized sooner, especially with Ime Udoka and his coaching style. But regardless, they went double bigs, which something I did allude to in the
Hmm.
you know the overview of the series. But I don't know, man. It's rough because when I picked them in 7, and just judging how the first couple games have gone, I can't sit by that no more. I mean, I'm not going to back off of it. I'm not just going to say, oh, oh, now I'm all Warriors. I'll die on that ship. But yeah, they're done, and it's unfortunate because if Jalen Green were to play like he did in Game 2, I think this series would be a little bit more competitive because you have that other person
Hmm.
who's there with Shingun to kind of, now you got two guys who could potentially, not consistently, but potentially match the production of Steph and Jimmy Butler. So now it's on the others. And I thought the others of Houston was better than the others of Golden State. That turns out not to be the case. So
Mm.
I digress. They're cooked. And we're going to go ahead and speed through Pistons. Had a really nice comeback win against the Knicks. Put Jalen Big Body Brunson in a straight jacket. Been very physical with him. Um, they limited Towns as well in that game 5. So I mean, there's some things that I think they're cooking. Personally, I think they're doing the right things. Now I'm not picking them to win this series, but I definitely think that they're on to something here. I don't think they're going to go home in game 6. I think they'll force the game 7, but then I think that's where their season will end. Um, but yeah, because I think a lot of things have to go wrong for New York for the Pistons to be in these games, especially in the fourth quarter, because I think Jalen Brunson is the best player in this series. Even though Cade Cunningham is definitely on the way, but when you look at how he's playing, when Cade Cunningham's on, I mean when Jalen Brunson's on, when he has Cat right behind him, when they're playing at a very good level, the Pistons really don't have any answers for them. Not to mention OG and Mikal Bridges.
Mhm.
So that being said, I think they are cooking in the sense that they will force a game 7, but I think their season's over in game 7 because they're not going to beat this team in the Garden in a game 7.
Hmm. Interesting.
Casual,
Me?
what you got?
Oh, you want to go casual?
Um. Oh no, no. You go ahead, man.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I say they're cooking. I still got the Pistons in 6 or 7 because of what I
7.
saw Cade doing the other night.
It's gonna have to be
Cat
7.
blocked him
Yeah.
a couple times, but Durant had them cleanup buckets that helped him get the lead late. That put the pressure on the Knicks because the Knicks they hit some crazy shots to try to close it, but whenever it came down to it, Pistons prevailed. I think the Pistons could do that a couple more times because they're a scrappy doghouse team that's going to go out there and get it this series. The Knicks crack under pressure too easy for being one of the big teams in the East.
Hmm.
Oh, you want me
CJ.
to? Yeah.
Okay.
He's they're cooking. They're cooking. I think they're cooking all the way up to game 7. I can't see Detroit losing 2 games back to back at home.
Mhm.
And especially with the way that they're losing
Mm.
these games, it's not like they're not on the level of the Knicks. It's just simply inexperience kicking
Mhm.
in or a call here or there, swaying the outcome. So like I'm not seeing anything that's separating the Knicks that the Pistons don't have an answer for. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna say that they're cooking. Game 7 is up in the air. I would probably lean with
Mhm.
experience and especially with New York being at home. I'll probably lean with them. But the fact that Cade is having his way. The fact that Jalen Duren is having, he's overachieving when it comes to playoff debut expectations for
Mhm.
him. Asar Thompson is doing everything
Mhm.
he can to make Jalen Brunson work. And he's doing a pretty damn good job. So like I feel like, and especially they're doing all of this, and the 3-point champion for them this year has not been playing that well. Malik Beasley is like mid.
Hmm.
Mhm.
He ain't been too bad, but he ain't been too good either. Once he starts to come along for the ride, who knows what can open up for them? Because that's the problem with the longer you have a 7 game series, the more lengthy it gets, the more likely certain players get comfortable and they can get their stride. If
Mhm.
Malik Beasley is the person that gets that stride at the right time, it could end up being a wrap. So I'm gonna say that they're cooking.
Mm. Okay.
CW.
Okay. Was having a little technical difficulty, but think I'm back. Y'all can hear me.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I actually think they're cooking. Um, even though I don't think they're going to win the series, I think they're showing everybody that they belong on this
Hmm.
stage and that they can only get better. Like you said, Malik Beasley hasn't been playing the best, but Cade Cunningham, I think, is just he's showing what he is. I
Hmm.
think he had 12 early, and then he started pouring it on towards the end last night.
Mhm.
Um, So he showed that he can have, a mediocre game and then pour it on when necessary. And I thought that was a huge win for them last night. And it showed that they had some poise. So I could see them pulling away and winning this because the Knicks, as great as Jalen Brunson is, he can shoot you in, he can shoot you out. He can take some crazy shots, he can take some bad shots from time to time. And they found ways to kind of, slow him down. And I think they've been constantly doing that. And it worked last night. And I think if they can get that strategy again next game and force it to a game 7, I think they can win it because, Cat is a great player, but he's not a high IQ guy. So he's going to make some bad mistakes. So with his back against the wall, I think he'll be the guy that loses that series for the Knicks. And I think I chose the Knicks, but I'm starting to go over to the Pistons side because I like what I see from them, and they just look like a team that is just poised and they're not rattled by the crowds. They're not making a ton. They make mistakes, but they're not making a ton of mistakes. But I think they're right there with the Knicks. And I think they can pull it off. So I think they're cooking.
That's right. Come over to this side, CW. We are smoking on that Knicks back.
I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to believe.
Yeah. I don't have too much else to say to that. We're just going to let the chips fall where they may. But to think that Brunson and Towns are going to both play bad in these next 2 games, because that's what it's going to take for the Pistons to win this series. You got to have both of them guys wet the bed back-to-back games for them to win this series. Or, like Casual said, you have a Beasley burner. But I just don't see that. I think they'll have a valiant effort, but I don't see that. But Ron Dog's team, the Clippers, after they just got their butts kicked against Denver.
Whoa. First of all, the Clippers whooped their butt even worse than what they got whooped last night. So hold up now.
But game 5 is always that swing. That's that swing game. And if you win game 5, typically, and it doesn't always happen, but typically your team goes on to win that series. And they delivered in great fashion. But since you are the Clippers guy, you're Mr. Kawhi. Is your Kawhi Clippers cooked or are they cooking?
No, dude. They are getting ready to start cooking because the only reason really they lost last night is because Jamal Murray looked like the old Jamal Murray. He freaking was scoring the ball, and then Jokic was scoring with them. So I'll give them their props. The Clippers are getting ready to come out and kick them in the mouth and win this game 5. That's what's going to happen. Kawhi's about to put on a masterclass.
Okay.
Nuggets already won game 5, bro.
So you
yeah, Jamal Murray. Yeah, he did that. He did the thing.
I think
game 6.
It's over. It's over in game 6.
Jamal Murray can't do it back to back.
Yeah.
He can't do it back to back.
Yeah, what I just saw, I'm expecting Westbrook to not do that shit again.
Yeah.
And that still might, because Westbrook did all of that and they blew them out. Imagine if Westbrook just does his regular shtick, but Jamal Murray is still like playing like Jamal Murray. Because Aaron Gordon's been more consistent than Jamal Murray in this series.
Yep.
And I would like to think that Jamal would have to wake up and recognize the advantages he does have in this series. I mean, it isn't like this team can keep up with Jamal Murray when it comes to foot speed. I think the only reliable defender on the perimeter that's keeping up with Jamal is what's his name? Chris Dunn.
Yeah, Chris Dunn.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris Dunn's keeping up with him. But outside of him, like everybody else is, and even in Chris Dunn's case, he's not going to have to see Chris Dunn, but about 12, 13 minutes a game because the guy's an offensive liability. So I fail to see a real reason that Denver can't close this out. However, I'm going to give the Clippers the benefit of the doubt in this aspect. They've been fantastic at home. And part of the reason why this series is even this way is because the Clippers handled their business at home.
Mm-hmm.
Same way Denver handled their business at home. So seem like this is a home court advantage type of deal. So I'll give them the respect and saying they'll go 7, but I wouldn't be surprised if Denver closes this out. Is it tomorrow or Friday?
They play tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they wrap this up tomorrow, just simply because I think they're a better offensive team than the Clippers, but I think the Clippers are one damn good response when it comes to what they
Mm-hmm.
provide
Mm-hmm.
defensively.
It just sucks that this game is in the first round. This is
I
like
know,
a
yeah.
Facts. That is
Mm-hmm.
a
facts.
conference finals matchup game. But
That's true. Are the Clippers cooked or cooking? I don't want to say they're cooked. The thing nobody stated was Jokic didn't have the greatest game last night, and they still beat him by a wide margin. I mean, he got him a triple double, but he wasn't scoring. He was a little off last night.
And that was a fake triple double, C-Dub, man. That was a fake
Oh, you
triple
calling a
double.
fake? Uh,
he said
And that
fake
nigga,
that's
triple
that's
man, he
double.
debatable,
picked, he
but
picked, he picked
He
up, he
said
picked up
fake.
a couple rebounds off the floor, and then told coach, hey, go ahead and tag me out, man. I got what I needed,
hold
man.
on, I
I got
think
what I needed.
Frozen. Well, I think he didn't have a great game, but I think that. Can y'all hear me? Or am
Yeah,
I?
Yes,
I
sir.
can hear
Yeah,
you.
we
Yeah.
get you. We get you.
Yeah.
We
Hold
get
on.
you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Hold on. Yeah, my Wi-Fi for whatever reason is in and out, but
Xfinity be doing it to us.
I think I think the Clippers will win the next game, and the Nuggets will win Game 7 and go on. I just think it's sad, like Ron Dog said, that we have to get this in the first round when this should be, this could be like I said, a conference finals or definitely a semis, but you don't want to see neither one of these teams go home because they're such good teams that match up well with the other teams and could have had some exciting series. But I mean, that's the way the playoff bracket fell, and unfortunately, one team has to go home. I love what Kawhi Leonard's been doing, but I just think it's a little too. It's not enough. I think if we get Jamal Murray like we did last night, every night, it's a wrap. So they're cooked, but I think they win game 6.
I'll be quick. I'll just say I got the Clippers. They're cooking. I think they
Oh,
will have the response game in game 6, and they will take the Nuggets out in game 7. Now, not I
My
don't think it's
man.
I don't
My
think it's a hot
man.
take. I don't think it's like because like these teams are really good, and it's a closer series.
yeah, it
But
is.
I think when they respond and punch them back in the mouth in game 6, because if they don't, because obviously if they, I think the Nuggets need to win game 6. Because if they go into a game 7, even if it's on their home floor, I like the Clippers' chances in that game. But and then with me, I'm assuming they win game 6 and then they go on to game 7. But again, you guys made a lot of great points about this series.
Quick
about
shout out to Nicholas Batum. He's playing for the old men. He's doing very well right now.
But I think Kawhi Leonard, and you have to get something from James Harden, like the consistent James Harden that you saw, game 1. You got to have him. You got to have him for either game 6 or game 7. Like they don't both have to play phenomenal, but if you can get that and solid play from the rest of the people on the team, that will be enough to take out this version of the Denver Nuggets. But man, I just got to say before we jump into the last segment, Aaron Gordon's 3-point shot, man, wow, what a world of difference that's made for this team. Because
Mm-hmm.
just last season, if you would have gave him those same shots that they're giving him this series, he wouldn't even have shot him. He just would have sat there and then he would have played in the dunker spot. So, big shout out to him, and him playing like that has made this team substantially tougher to beat. But I still have Clippers in 7, just from their depth, and then obviously them being a superior defensive team. But we're gonna go in the final segment of today's show. We're gonna wrap things up. We're gonna quickly talk about
Mm-hmm.
Pacers Cavs. This is like the only second round matchup that's confirmed. We'll get into the rest of the second round matchups next week when all the brackets are finalized. And, my Lakers are probably back home in Cancun, but it's all right. So I'll just say this for me, I got Cleveland in 6. I think both of these teams are like not they're kind of constructed similarly. Like obviously, Cleveland has like, two bigs. And I know that, Pacers, they have, Siakam and Turner, but I just think they're a good group of guys, like a good collection of talent. No world beaters on either team, but they have a really good nucleus around those players. So for me, because I think the Pacers beat them 3 games to 1 this year. It don't really matter too much for regular season. I know Halliburton wasn't in some of these games. I think the Cavs dealt with some injuries throughout the regular season. But what I will say is Cleveland came off of beating Miami. They had like 7 different guys shooting 48+% from the field. I mean, they walked through Miami. So I'm not going to, put too much on that. I think the Pacer team, they're a little tougher defensively. They get a little bit more scrappier with you. Um, but I think Cleveland has a size advantage, just like Milwaukee did. But again, I think I think Indiana has the recipe to, negate some of the size mismatches. But I think the key to this series will be Evan Mobley. The step that he has made this regular season will be the difference maker in this series because Donovan Mitchell, Garland, those guys will score. And obviously, I need to see that same production from Garland in this series as well. Because again, Miami was kind of a cakewalk for them. But I'm gonna need that. They're going to need that. But the difference maker will be Evan Mobley because he proves the most mismatches. With his uptick in playmaking, his uptick in his 3-point shooting. Those are going to be the things that are going to be the difference in this series. And also a guy like Ty Jerome playing out of his mind off the bench. They're going to need those buckets. They're going to need that playmaking down the stretch from those two guys on top of what they're getting from Mitchell to win this series. But a world where the Pacers could win this series would, again, role players still need to, reciprocate what they did against Milwaukee. The Nimhards, the Naismiths, um, Toppin, even the little minutes of like Thomas Bryant, those are the kind of things. Oh, also Mathurin as well. I don't want to forget about him, McConnell. Those guys, especially Mathurin being in this series, being healthy for this Pacers team. I think that's another guy who's another body they can throw, at a Mobley if they need to, at a Mitchell, whatever. But another guy who can put points and put pressure on the rim because that's something they didn't have as much of last year. And he was one of their best guys that put pressure at the rim. So all those things to say, I still have Cleveland in 6. I think they're a slightly better team, and I think they're a superior defensive team. I think they're going to kill them on the glass. They do a better job of getting to the line. And as long as they can limit the Pacers' role players, they'll take care of this in 6 games.
I'm just going to go real quick. Cleveland in 5.
Dang, 5 games? Dang.
5.
Jesus. No respect for the Pacers.
If
That's
the
not that
Pacers
disrespectful. I don't know.
if the Pacers play like they did that last game, yeah, their best bet is go 5 or 6 games, but I still got Cleveland because they got more star power. They got 2 bigs who's gonna out rebound them. So I have the Cavs in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I got the Cavs and I got the Cavs in 5. I it's not a knock to Indiana. Trust me, I got all my hate out last night. So I'm not. I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. But one thing that is going to be the most important in this series is going to be Pascal and Miles Turner. You saw during the series against Milwaukee, they were able to get away with some games where Miles Turner wasn't as good of a floor spacer because they could be able to still get to the rim due to the lack of versatility at the front court spot with Milwaukee. With Brook being slow footed and all. That's not the case with Cleveland. Jared Allen and Evan Mobley are in tune with each other. They're both mobile. They're both athletic. They can both, cover for each other at the rim or guard in space. So, in order for the Pacers to be able to pull out a game or two in the first place with them, they're gonna need Pascal and Miles Turner to knock down them threes to keep Jared Allen and Evan Mobley honest. So, and quite frankly, I just don't believe that they can do that for an entire series against Cleveland, especially with how good Cleveland is with rotating and switching. So, I see Cleveland clearing them out in about 5. This is a different team, man. Cleveland's just different. They're different right now.
They are
Dominantly different. Mm.
very much.
Well, I can't disagree. I think they definitely will pose a lot of problems for the Pacers. I'm gonna give the role players for the Pacers a slight edge, so I'm gonna give them 2 games in that series, but that's as far as I'm gonna give them. So we're gonna wrap this up. We thank everybody for pulling up the live stream. Everybody hitting the comments. Obviously, thank you, Casual, for pulling up and
For
Yep, yep.
sure,
you
bro.
know
Much
fighting through
love.
the Bucks, man. Fighting through that
Oh,
pain.
oh, trust me. After I get off this call, I'm gonna go cry some more. But
Well, he gonna be joining you soon. He gonna be joining you after about midnight.
Probably. So,
it's all right, man. We're packing bags too. We'll do it together, man.
but thank you everybody for pulling up to live stream. Make sure you like the video. Comment your thoughts down below. Who you got? Pacers, Cavs. Is your favorite team? Are they cooked? Are they cooking? Lakers, Rockets, Pistons, Clippers. Leave it all down below. Where do you see Giannis going if he does depart this summer? And what's the future state of affairs for the Milwaukee Bucks? So leave all that down below. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't forget to watch the Bucks go to Cancun, see the Lakers probably join them in Cancun, and probably some other your favorite teams. So all that to say, thank you guys for joining, and until next time, we out.